Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, we have to gather round, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention. Education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Benskop upon the radio, lively up the program. Everybody call somebody and let them turn and tune and on the radio and catch the boom song. We boom it up already, we have to boom it up again. Expose and reveal him. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop.
Yeah, my name is Jasnity Kaldata Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my X next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data. I have none.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. Flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and a fortnight man.
There and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su? My relationship?
You said valid votes count, votes. You said valid votes count, votes cast.
How old are you?
I am 28, sir.
And where do you live?
In PT.
You own your own home?
Not as yet.
Apply for a house lot?
Not yet.
Well, sit down. You're not participating on the enhancement of your own life.
We're going to get straight down to business here tonight. Just imagine This guy is supposed to be the president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and he's telling that young man, that young reporter, in other words, shut up, shut your mouth. We have no time for you, absolutely no time for you, because you are not participating in whatever. And that is coming from someone who is supposed to be the president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. That's the sort of attitude they have towards young people of that country. It's a shame, it's a disgrace. But look, on the other hand, over here, I was watching in the US, that is, there's this young lady, Caroline Leavitt, 27 years old, made her debut today at the White House as the spokesperson, the president, the spokesperson of the White House. Look, a White House press secretary. Look, regardless of how we may think about Trump or whatever views you may have about Trump, you got to say, she was pretty sharp in how she handled members of the press. Well, of course, she was saying, hey, America's back, right? But she responded pretty well to those questions. I hope some of those quote unquote press person in Guyana, they're taking a look at what's happening. Smart, brilliant people, regardless of what we may think of her political views. Mind you, I was somewhat impressed. She was pretty sharp. And this is what's happening around immigration offices are picking people up. This guy with this T-shirt, Latino for Trump. Oh, that's okay. We'll still take you. We'll still tag you along with us. All right. What's happening tonight, guys? We have Bart Fisher. Many of you know Bart. He's no stranger to you guys. He's our guest here tonight. Bart S. Fisher. He's an attorney, investment banker. He's a teacher, philanthropist, a true philanthropist, mind you. That's Bart Fisher. No stranger to any of you guys. I got some questions for Bart, investment. I have all sorts of questions for Mr. Fisher, but he's going to be on with us in just about 30 seconds or so. Lots of questions on the immigration front. People are concerned, and rightly so. And let me just say this quickly before I get on to our guest tonight, Mr. Fisher, who is in studio already waiting. If you have a pending petition, walk with a copy of that pending petition in your bag. An I-130, an adjustment of status, the receipt, that letter that you get from USCIS, walk with it, keep it in your bag. Regardless of what that petition is, if it's an asylum or whatever, walk with it. And that can save the day. Walk with it, guys. Don't panic. Let's get straight to my guest this evening. Bart Fisher with us. Mr. Fisher, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you, Mark? Good to see you again.
Not too bad. I haven't seen you since last year. It's 2025. I hope this 2025 has started off with a bang for you.
So far, so good. A lot of excitement in the nation's capital, as you know. And it's every day, a lot of new announcements, a lot going on. Very exciting time to be in the nation's capital. And, look forward
go ahead.
With you about it.
Just the exciting time. I'm not sure if you saw the press conference today, the White House press secretary making her debut. Have you?
Saw parts of it. I agree with you. She's very sharp. She did a good job. She's 27 years old, which is remarkable to be the White House press secretary at that age. It speaks well for Trump. She has, in fact, been a spokesman for the campaign for several years. And also she goes way back with Trump, actually, despite her age. And she's viewed as a loyalist, and she's very sharp.
Apart from being the loyalist, I'm looking at a very sharp side of things. And so, yes, I give her that credit. Very sharp indeed. And I hope other press secretaries around the world can be as sharp as she came across. We wish her all the best. Yeah,
she did a good job. She's good, but she's, despite her tender years, she's been around actually on the whole press circuit. She's well known.
Yeah, in terms of our PR, because she had a podcast and all these different things as well.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. So let's see. We'll follow what she is up to, Caroline Leavitt. So let's begin our program right off the bat. We know lots of interesting things happening. What is your take? The elections went in favor of Trump. He's now the 47th president of the United States of America. Were you surprised at the outcome?
No, I was not surprised. Kamala Harris had a mission impossible from the start because she was selected basically by the party elders in a coup, basically to get rid of Biden, who had a disastrous debate. After that debate, it was clear that, to put it mildly, Biden had lost a step. And as he was aging, literally in front of the American people the last 2 years, it was clear that after the debate that it was going to be uphill for him to keep office. Also, in light of the inflation, people very unhappy about grocery prices and gas prices. And so at the end of the day, she had, I thought she actually did a good job in the campaign, but she had mission impossible. She had like 60 days to become well known. A lot of the American people didn't know her. And John Nance Garner, who had been vice president, once said the vice presidency isn't worth the barrel of spit. It's a very inconsequential office in many respects, where you just along for the ride. And so she had to introduce herself to the American people in a very short period of time. And so I thought actually she did a good job under the circumstances. So I wasn't surprised at the end of the day because of the inflation issue. People are very upset about that. To a lesser degree, they were upset about immigration, not as much as Trump himself was, but they certainly, Reagan once asked the famous question, do you feel better off today than you did 4 years ago? And a lot of people did not. So, I think that explained, so I wasn't surprised to answer your question at all. I mean, he got basically 52% of the vote. So it was not a landslide. It was maybe 1.5% ahead of her. So the nation still remains divided and polarized.
What is your take on this? Because it's being branded around America is back.
Well, America has had a sharp slide in the last 4 years under Biden. I travel a lot. I go to Asia, I go to Africa, and I see the influence of the U.S. has waned. And you see China, you go to Africa, it's like, I tell people, China now dominates 2 continents, Asia and Africa, and would like to dominate Latin America. So this America First policy does resonate more at this point due to the last 4 years. So I do think that Trump has a chance to be the most consequential president we've had since 1932. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was president. Roosevelt put together the Democratic coalition that's lasted for 90 years. So Trump has a chance now. This is his moment. He's at the zenith of his power. He has all houses of Congress. He has the House. He has the Senate. He has a 6-3 majority on the U.S. Supreme Court. And of course, he's president. So all 3 branches are really, the stars are aligned for him to be able to be effective. And that's what he wants to be.
Effective. The last time we saw the 3 branches of government in the hands of the president, I think was under Bill Clinton.
Yeah,
right?
92, or 94. 92. And then 94, you had the Gingrich Revolution. And then the House went for the Republicans.
And the Gingrich Revolution was with the contract with America.
It was a contract with America, and it helps if you have all branches of the government, basically, which is what Trump now has.
It helps, yeah, but how healthy is that for democracy?
Well, it depends if there are guardrails to guard against authoritarianism, against excessive reaching beyond the law. And here we get into the issue of the lawfulness on immigration, to come back to your point of what's going on. Also, executive orders, as you see, like today, was put on pause to cut off all payments by the federal government. I mean, pretty amazing. So the courts will have to step in when needed. So there are checks and balances. That's the beauty of our system of government. we have checks and balances. But I think the guardrails will hold. I'm not a pessimist, but I think they'll be tested. And certainly you saw today that the court stepped in to pause on firing or on stopping all disbursements or payments. So also on birthright citizenship, the court stepped in to say, well, it'd be unconstitutional to take away birthright citizenship. Not that you can't do it, but it has to be done by an act of Congress or by constitutional amendment, neither of which are going to happen. So, but the courts are there as a check on what's going on, including on immigration.
You've practiced for quite some decades now. What you're seeing now, and of course, you're correct, the court stepped in with the birthright citizenship. Of course, they claim that the president doesn't have the power to just do away with any amendments or any part of the Constitution. In this case, the birthright is part of the 14th Amendment. The court stepped in and on that, and the freezing of federal fundings and so forth and so on, the court stepped in again. How confident are you, or these matters to meet all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, that we will see a fair conclusion?
I'm not overly confident, to be honest with you. There's a 6-3, very, very conservative majority on the court, on the Supreme Court. And so they recently had an opinion that is, I thought, wrong, saying the president had immunity for official acts, in quote. So then you get into the discussion, what is an official act? And with an authoritarian president, that could be interpreted to be pretty much whatever he wants to do. So that's a 6-3 majority that voted for that. And I think that opens a dangerous door for any president to say, well, everything I'm doing is official. So I could go out and order the assassination of a political opponent. That's my official course of duties. I mean, you can make up stuff that's everything. All of a sudden, everything is immune. And so I'm not overly confident, actually. I think there'll be some obvious cases like the birthright citizenship where it's black and white in the Constitution. It's in the Constitution. So, but in the arguable cases, who knows?
So, as someone who has practiced law for all those years, do you foresee that the U.S. Supreme Court will say, well, look, this is outside of our jurisdiction as it pertains to the birthright. Let Congress change that?
Yes, that's the default position constantly by the courts, is to say, well, it's up to the Congress to change it, not to the court. So either, be an act of Congress would be required or a constitutional amendment. So but that's a clear case. I mean, so not every case is as clear as that one. So basically, I'm not overly confident in the arguable cases that Trump we'll see how far he can push the law. He wants to do away with the civil service. Basically, he wants to take away federal jobs. He fired 14, they're called inspector generals of these departments. And well, I don't think that's a good thing. So basically, you're going to go through a series of tests of constitutional, what's lawful, what's constitutional. Trump's going to push it. And I must say on immigration, I think actually, Obama deported a million people. This is not a new phenomenon of deportation.
I want you again, Attorney Art Fisher, because a lot of people probably might say, Obama's administration deported 1 million or almost 1 million folks during his 2 terms. Probably the same amount that Bill Clinton deported as well. But you were building on your point there. I just wanted our listeners to know that. But go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I mean, so the press or the media seem to be treating it as an exceptional event. It really is not exceptional. And of course, a lot of African Americans were very disappointed with Obama, too. I mean, at the end of the day, it's very interesting how that played out in the Black community. But basically, it's not new. So what Trump is doing is, of course, he's adding to it the wall to keep out immigrants coming in via Mexico and Canada, interestingly. So, a lot of people coming in through Canada, I have to tell you, they just fly into Montreal or Toronto and take a bus in. It's from all over the world. So Canada is also a problem. It's not just Mexico. And but I think on the deportation issue, on the immigration issue, generally speaking, I think Trump has the support of the American people. Now, the African-American community is not happy because if you try to take someone off the street without a warrant, that's not lawful. So you need a warrant. And by the way, I heard your thing about have your papers with you. I think it's very good advice. I mean, just make sure that when you're taking your kid to school or going to church or you're going out, that you have every lawful paper with you, indicating that you have lawful status.
Lawful status indeed. And even if you have a petition, I agree with Attorney Bart, and there are others who are advising as such. What is your take, Mr. Fisher, that the sanctuary cities, even churches, even schools will be raided? What's your take on churches and schools being raided?
No, I don't like that because you have so many people. You go to an elementary school, these kids aren't going to be, the subjects of rightful subjects of deportation. So it's a fear tactic. But if you have a warrant for someone, you are entitled to pick that person up, but not if you don't have a warrant. So you can't just say that guy looks like he's an unlawful fellow and take him. You can't do that. So, but the immigration issue, it was a major foul up by the Biden administration. When the Biden came in, he was determined to reverse Trump, and he got rid of the stay in Mexico policy. And then he also continued the catch and release policy. Now, the combination of those two policies allowed an open border, basically. And unfortunately, just millions of people came in, and and they totally didn't carry out the intent of the asylum provisions. The asylum was meant to be you were personally being pursued, or the reprisals against you by a dictatorship. It wasn't just meant to be, well, I'm really poor and I'm unhappy with my situation in life. I mean, so the asylum person would come in across the border, get 1 foot in the U.S., and they would claim asylum. And then the U.S. would, the people at ICE under Homeland Security, would take them to a judge who would say, okay, you'll have a hearing in a year and a half. And then those people would disappear. And so the asylum system itself was totally abused. It wasn't the intent at all to have it used as a spigot to let everybody in. So the combination of the getting rid of the stay in Mexico policy, the abuse of the asylum policy, and the catch and release, that combination was lethal. And so people not happy. And with every crime that happened by an undocumented immigrant, I mean, Trump would point that out, and so, in fact, there were several so far since he's been inaugurated, in fact, that he could have pointed out. So it's an issue that ever since he came down the golden escalator in 2016, and he said, well, the Mexicans are bringing in rapists and criminals, and I guess there's some decent Mexicans. And everyone was shocked when he said that at that time. But over the last 8 years, that issue has resonated, actually. And so the point is just to make sure that whatever is done lawfully with warrants, and that apparently the first ones that will be deported are those who are undocumented immigrants who have criminal records of committed crimes, including those in prison. There's going to be some twists. You don't have to be out of prison. You can be in prison and do self-deportation. Say, I want to get out and go somewhere else, back to the country of origin, if you were a foreigner. So this turns out to be a complicated area, the whole issue of deportation, legally, actually. And I think, but overall, I think Trump has support for that position.
All right, we're talking about the deportation. We're talking about the ICE roundup. 52% of those who have rounded up thus far are have no criminal history or anything other than the fact that they are undocumented, overstayed their time, or whatever, and may not have had an active petition in the system. But thus far, we are not hearing any court stopping and saying sanctuary cities, it is unlawful to raid churches and schools. The courts have not touched on that. I'm not sure if there's any petition as yet.
No, and they targeted Chicago as sanctuary, Los Angeles, Dallas, New York, and basically, as long as the ICE agents act with warrants, that'll continue.
Lawful warrant.
Lawful warrant
from a judge, not from an ICE agent.
No, from a court, or a judge. Yeah, and I don't know to what degree this affects people from Guyana who are in the U.S. Undocumented, but they should be very careful and have the papers, just what you said, to make sure that, and also to be in the process. I mean, if they have a valid claim for asylum, they should be making it.
Yeah, or a valid family-based petition, which is an approved I-130, or a family-based petition. They should feel comfortable. Comfortable, not too comfortable, but comfortable enough to know that they are possibly safe.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
So it seems to me that on the immigration, I don't know if how much this is of concern to the Guyana folks, but the tariff thing worries me. I mean, Trump has said he's going to put a 10% tariff on all.
And I wanted that you preempted this here. I wanted to get straight to that because you wrote an article there, and you did say that there are 4 problems with this flood. We were looking at the flood here. Our operator just got it. But you were talking about replacing the federal income tax with tariffs imposed on imported products.
The point is, Trump has a love affair with tariffs and sees them as a solution to a lot of problems. But there are basically 4 different issues, 4 problems with his desire to replace the income tax with tariffs. And first, it would trigger a global trade war. Foreign countries not just going to sit back, they're going to retaliate, right? And so then you have bad memories of the Great Depression in 1930 through 32 was made much worse by the Smoot-Hawley tariff of 1930, and other countries began to retaliate, and basically it led to the Great Depression. So I'm very concerned that if tariffs are put across the board, which is what he said he would do, 10% across the board and 60% more against China, that other countries would retaliate. I mean, how would Guyana like it if that 10% tariff were applied against their oil exports, its oil exports to the U.S.? So while it's not impossible, I mean, if that's the policy, even though it's Exxon or Chevron or a U.S. company, they would still pay the tariff. Now, with Venezuela, it's a different story. I think he would have Venezuela pay the tariff. I think Maduro is in his crosshairs, and anything that would weaken that, he would weaken Maduro, he would do. But it's quite, so the first problem is just basically you get retaliation and you get a trade war. Second problem is there's legal questions as to whether he has the legal authority. We're back to the issue: does the president have the legal authority to do things? Under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2 of the U.S. Constitution, Congress has the plenary authority over the regulation of foreign trade, unless and until it delegates it to the president. And there have been some delegations related to national security But basically, if they're not intended to cover all imports and all tariffs on all countries. They're intended to be selective. So basically, there's legal issues with the tariff proposal. And then you get into it's a regressive tax on consumers. Trump keeps saying mistakenly that China pays. Well, at the end of the day, it's the U.S. consumer who pays. And that would just raise prices and be inflationary and be a regressive tax on U.S. consumers. So I think the point of the whole thing is that Trump probably intends to use tariffs as leverage. Now, you can't understand Trump at all unless you read his books, the most important one being The Art of the Deal. And in The Art of the Deal, Trump says you always want to be in a position where the other party is desperate for something you have. And in this case, his perception is that the foreign countries are desperate to have access to the U.S. market and the consumer. And so he's playing on that leverage to say, well, to China, good luck. You're not coming in our market as long as you're restricting our goods coming into your market. So at the end of the day, it's a tax on consumers. You put 60%. You go to Walmart, you see or Home Depot, and all the stuff's made in China. China's become the factory floor of the world. So at the end of the day, it's a regressive tax on consumers. It would be unlawful if it were applied across the board, and it basically could trigger a trade war. However, it is leverage, which he will be using, and he used it, as you saw, Mark, against Colombia. When Colombia said, we're not going to let your military planes land with deportees, Trump said, well, I'm going to put a 25% tariff on right now on your goods. And then
and visa sanctions as well.
And visa sanctions. And then at the end of the week, it'll be 50% tariff. And right away, the Colombian government backed down and said, no problem. You can bring your planes in. So you had an early indication of the use of the tariffs as leverage, as negotiating tools by Trump. And I think at the end of the day, that's probably where it all ends up. And his Secretary of Treasury, who was confirmed today, is in favor of a much lower duty, like 2%, 2.5%. And the issue is people are trying to see, can you have tariffs with a purpose rather than tariffs just indiscriminately across the board against everybody, including your allies? He's threatening 25% tariff against Canada, and Mexico, despite the U.S.-Mexico free trade agreement. It's called USMCA. So that would violate that trade agreement. So we'll see. It'll probably be a program of rolling tariffs used as negotiating tools.
You did mention his book, The Art of the Deal, published back in, when was it, 1987. He seemed to have gotten his publicity from that, with that being 13 weeks on the New York Times bestsellers. 13 weeks he spoke about his deals, his upbringing in the Jamaica estate, in Brooklyn and all. And you guys should take a read of that book, The Art of the Deal. You yourself have a book that's out, Bart, but we'll touch on that probably later down. But we are seeing some of these federal programs, U.S. aid and all these things cut off in other nations. And this thing is done just right there by the stroke of a pen in the Oval Office, sorry. Are you concerned that we see the powers, all that power in the hands of one man? That's not what the Founding Fathers meant in terms of executive power.
It's a very interesting point. We now are at a point where it's the technology titans who are exercising the influence behind Trump. This includes Elon Musk, who heads a new Department of Governmental Efficiency. And if you watch the inauguration, the tech titans were in the front row in front of cabinet officers.
All of them. Priority. Yeah.
I think that sent a message. And the message is that, we have concentration of power here that we're going to take care of. And this is largely due to J.D. Vance and to the sons, Eric and Donald Jr., particularly Donald Jr. J.D. Vance went to Silicon Valley, actually, and became close to the tech, what we call Silicon Valley hierarchy. And J.D. Vance introduced his Donald Jr., Eric, through J.D. Vance, became close to these technology titans, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and the list goes on. So it's interesting, though, that in his farewell speech, Biden warned against oligarchs, that we should not become like other countries where we had information controlled by oligarchs. Well, that he was clearly trying to imitate Eisenhower. Eisenhower warned us against the military-industrial complex. Biden was warning us against the technology-industrial complex. But it's a fact that they have a lot of money. I mean, these people, and Elon Musk is their spokesman, and he's right in the belly of the beast there in the White House. So we come to what happened yesterday, which was the Sputnik moment we had, where China came out with DeepSeek, an AI, artificial intelligence product that was much cheaper than OpenAI, and caused NVIDIA to lose $650 billion on its market cap in one day, the largest any corporation's ever lost in market cap in one day. Jensen Huang alone lost $20 billion. So today they rebounded somewhat. But the Sputnik moment happened when the Russians put Sputnik up, and it was clear that they were ahead in the space race. And then you had the missile gap, which JFK used to win the presidency in 1960, saying the U.S. had a missile gap against Russia. And now it's China. And the issue is an existential issue, really, with vis-a-vis China. And in terms of how we look at Guyana, I think that's very relevant, that the Trump administration will not want China dominating that economy. And China, and he cites the Panama Canal, as a kind of exhibit A of what happens. So basically, we have a challenge. We have to do something, and so this in the Western Hemisphere. So this comes to the other issue of what's our policy basically going to be. With the Monroe Doctrine is one, where we say, well, this goes back to 1813, and President James Monroe, who said that the Western Hemisphere should be dominated by the United States, and we should have the right to intervene to our interest. And it was really aimed at that time against European colonialization. But now you have Chinese colonialization being attempted. So, but the Monroe Doctrine would be one key point to watch. The other is the good neighbor policy of Franklin Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt was just the opposite, saying we want to be good neighbors, we want to help out. Same thing with JFK, with Alliance for Progress. So I think where we need to go is we need to look at Latin America again, as in the U.S. area of interest, and very much so. And Mexico in particular. I mean, Mexico has created a huge problem for the U.S. and through this immigration issue. And it's unfortunate how this is going to play out. I don't know. But I think Trump has the upper hand on that immigration issue, though.
All right, Bart Fisher, attorney at law, is with us. He wrote recently, he says, hey, the tariffs, and it's far from making America great again. Trump's tariffs, that is, would bring America a Great Depression again. As alluded to earlier, the Great Depression back in the, early 30s?
Early 30s.
Early 30s, indeed. The Great America, Make America Great Again would bring make America a Great Depression again. Moving away from that for a moment, what is your take, though, on the recent Trump signed an executive order to release those secret files on Martin Luther King Jr., JFK, and who was it? One other person. What's your take?
Robert F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, they've been classified for 60 years. And I think it's time to release the files. I think so many conspiracy theories have grown up over the years. And was there a single assassin of JFK? And was Lee Harvey Oswald put up to it all by the Russians or the Cubans? So many conspiracy theories saying, was there a shot from the grassy knoll? There had to be two shooters. So I would be very curious to see what the Warren Commission really said, what the FBI files or all the classified files have to say about that. Obviously, same issue with Martin Luther King, Sirhan with Robert F. Kennedy. I mean, these are all, and cottage industries have grown up on conspiracy theories. So let's get the facts out on the table. 60 years is long enough.
60 years is long enough. I'm almost certain that the president knows exactly what's in those files. And if there was anything contrary, I'm sure he would not have ordered the release of those documents. But I agree with you, 60 years is long enough. Get those files.
No, I have no problem with that at all. And I think it should have been done a long time ago.
Lots of conspiracy theories indeed. JFK's killing, RFK's killing, Dr. Martin Luther King's Jr. killing, assassinations. Let's read what's in those files. What is your take on the revocation of security details for former CIA Director Mike Pompeo, who is also former U.S. Secretary of State, and others, Bolton and others? Your take? Outrageous.
Mike Pompeo, I know him. I thought he was an excellent Secretary of State. I thought he was an excellent CIA director, a very bright guy, ranked first in his class at West Point.
West Point, yeah.
My point is that he and others who were around at the time, Soleimani, the Iranian general, was assassinated basically in Iraq. They're under a death threat or warrant from the Ayatollah of Iran still. So they deserve a security detail. And I agree with Senator Tom Cotton, a Republican out of Arkansas, who said, Sunday, he said, I really hope President Trump rethinks that. And this is Cotton. He's a very loyal, he's a Trump loyalist, but and was mentioned to be Secretary of Defense, in fact. So I agree with Tom Cotton on that one. I think, it's just sort of a petty retribution to remove the security detail of John Bolton, the National Security Advisor, of Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, because you're mad at them. That, to me, is not very presidential.
Not very presidential at all. Mad at them. Of course, your good friend, Mike Pompeo. I'm sure you remember this here. This is when he stood up for Trump when he was Secretary of State. Here it is.
Mr. Secretary.
Hi.
Is the State Department currently preparing to engage with the Biden transition team? And if not, at what point does a delay hamper a smooth transition or pose a risk to national security?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. All right, we're ready. The world is watching what's taking place here. We're going to count all the votes. When the process is complete, there'll be electors selected. There's a process. The Constitution lays it out pretty clearly. The world should have every confidence that the transition necessary to make sure that the State Department is functional today, successful today, and successful with the president who's in office on January 20th, a minute afternoon, will also be successful. I went through a transition on the front, and I've been on the other side of this. I'm very confident that we will do all the things that are necessary to make sure that the government, the United States government, will continue to perform its national security function as we go forward.
So you believe there's widespread voter fraud, that the reports that we're getting from Pennsylvania, from Michigan,
And in this clip here, he basically, even after the elections declared, the winner was declared, Joe Biden, he said there will be a second swearing in of a Trump administration after midday of January 20th. Many folks don't, as they remember that, they thought that that was not a healthy thing for democracy, especially in the United States of America. I just thought I'd show you that clip to remind you how much he fought for Trump, but yet still Trump went ahead and say, that's it for your security details. Let Iran take care of you. I'm not saying that that should be the case, but obviously Trump has opened him up for direct target by Iranians and maybe others. It's not good at all, as you said.
Well, it's retribution. Also, it's concern that Pompeo might run in 2028 and be a candidate for president. And I think it's an attempt to diminish him, basically. I mean, otherwise, it's hard to understand, except as just being mad. But so then Trump's defense, he just said, well, how long should this go on? He said it's very expensive to have security details. However, I think as long as there's an active threat or fatwa against them, they should have security. Also, you want people to go in the government. You want good people to go in the government, and you want them to perform their duties. And at that time, Soleimani was viewed as a target. It was a foreign policy decision, and so he deserves to be protected as long as there's that kind of active threat. So I agree with Senator Cotton on that one.
Yep, Senator Cotton did make it clear, but also Joe Biden for 4 years didn't revoke the security detail for former Secretary Mike Pompeo.
That's true.
Interesting.
And, we all remember what happened on January 6th, 2020, when the mob went down and defiled the Capitol big time. And now Trump has pardoned all those people, including those who assaulted police officers, some of whom died. So at the end of the day, that whole episode of the transition, so-called, was a mess. And so I just think if you go in the government, we're trying to get good people in the government, right? So what message does this send when a person of such stellar capabilities as Pompeo is being basically saying, okay, pal, you're on your own? To me, is not nice.
Not nice at all. We saw former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo made several visits to Guyana right after the Trump victory. And I just thought I'd mention that because someone mentioned that he was there. I see you're smiling about those visits.
Well, I remember the whole election situation there in 2020. And, I remember the arguments being made on both sides. And look, politics ain't beanbag. People, and it's competitive, and it's a contact sport, and no one likes to lose. And so the PPP didn't, the APNU plus AFC, they didn't like to lose. No one likes to lose. Trump didn't like to lose. And so you saw what happened when that happened. So that, to me, but the flip side of it is, at the end of the day, he's had 4 years out of power to think about what he would do when he came to power. And so now that's why you're seeing he actually knows how to be president. There's no question about it. He knows how to do it. He when he came before in 2016, coming down the golden escalator, he was a businessman, new to Washington, didn't know a lot of people, and had some early stumbles. But now he actually knows. He knows the town. He knows what to do, and he's doing it. So he's in a position now to be much more effective. There's no doubt about it.
And he seems to have a lot of those oligarchs by his side. I don't know. Let me ask this question, because we are seeing that the Secretary of ICE, that's the Homeland Security Secretary, is going out on these field beats, these street beats with these ICE officers. We've never seen it before. as a legal mind for so many decades. How do you feel about this? Is it like optics? Is it for the optics, or is it, well, what's happening?
Well, I think she's entitled to see what's going on the ground. I don't have a problem with it.
Fair enough. Some people have been complaining about the approach of some ICE officers. I don't know if you've read of any reports, though, but are those reports, if you read any, are they legit?
I have not reviewed those reports. From what I've seen, as I say, it's like the Obama administration. It really, there were massive deportations then. I mean, this is not a new phenomenon.
Certainly not new. As we prepare to wind down tonight's program, India wakes, post-coronavirus, New World Order, Bart S. Fisher and Arun Tiwari. How's this book going, and what went across your mind as you guys prepared this book?
Well, it's an interesting story. You know, Trump was doing very well for 3 years. He probably would have been reelected. But then the coronavirus hit, which he promptly dubbed the China virus. And he handled the pandemic very poorly in a lot of regards. And that's what cost him the election. And as it cost elections around the world for leaders, he wasn't the only one. So it was a tough time to be in office. The point of the book, though, is that India has a role to play, which is as a buffer to China and an ally, a steadfast ally of the U.S. Against China. The China situation is, and the story, what I call the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey used to say, is that Trump tried to do business in China, and he wanted to register his trademark, Trump, and the trademark board in China said, no, you can't have a trademark because the name Trump, the brand, because it's generic. It means to dominate, to trump somebody. So it was really ridiculous. But anyway, for 10 years, he never got his trademark. After he became elected, after he won, within 2 weeks, he got his trademarks. And Ivanka Trump got 10 trademarks, including on voting machines and clothing and all kinds of things. The point being, it was all politicized. And so, but Trump had had a very bad experience with China. And so he was determined to go after China and its unfair trade practices, including trademark actions like that, politicizing the intellectual property regime. So the role India has to play is, if we build bridges to India, we can be more confident in containing China. And China needs to be contained. There's no question about it. And we need to build bridges to India. So that's the message of the book. I talk about areas like healthcare, investment, trade. I would institute what I call the American preference. I would let goods from India come in duty-free. They used to have the imperial preference in the Commonwealth days. Now, I would say they should have the American preference. We need India, and India needs us. And we need them in artificial intelligence, by the way, as the back room. They're very good in software, as you know, and they can really be helpful in countering China. This whole artificial intelligence area is very, very important. So we need India, and India needs us. And so the book is done quite well, particularly in India.
All right, guys. If you can get a copy, it's on Amazon, and read it up. Tom is no stranger. Maybe he doesn't have birthright to Guyana, but we will one day probably give him honorary Guyanese citizenship. He means well, not only for Guyana, but for the United States of America and for fair countries around the world. He believes in democracy.
I just want you to give me my Beck's beer after all these years. You keep promising.
You'll get. It's been so many years. Indeed, you'll get your Banks beer pretty soon in Washington. Closing remarks as whether you want to soften people up a little bit on the immigration side, or to let them know that America has always been a great country. It's never gone anywhere, and so America will continue to be a great country, and it's home for many folks, including myself, who have made this. This is our second home away from our country of birth. Your parting words for tonight until we invite you sometime soon again.
Well, I think you gave my speech. You gave my speech. I mean, basically, we need to be friend Bill Bridges to Guyana. Obviously, it has oil, has natural resources that can be very useful for the U.S. And we've got a lot of Guyanese here in the diaspora, as you know. And so we need a good relationship all through Latin America in general, Guyana in particular. The fulcrum of power on the oil market is going to shift, right, between Suriname and Guyana basin there with the oil. So we have a major interest in resources and also resource conservation, the issue of climate change, handling that well. So we have a lot of common interests, and healthcare, how we handle the next pandemic, whenever that is. So let's continue to have a good relationship.
And thank you so much, as always. Don't be a stranger. I noticed some folks in the audience, the moment you mentioned Banks beer, everybody wants a Banks beer in the audience as well. You guys enjoy your Banks beer, and very soon we'll be having that Banks beer. Bart, thank you as always. And again, don't be a stranger. Folks, get your copy. This is Mr. Fisher is not on to promote the book, but I just thought I introduce it again to you guys. If you can and you can afford it, go and read up on what Bart Fisher and Arun Tiwari have to say, in terms of post-coronavirus and the new world order. Thanks again, Mr. Fisher. Appreciate it. See you soon.
Thank you, Mark. Take care.
Yeah. All right. Attorney at law there, Bart Fisher. He has been practicing for over 50 years in the Washington, D.C. area. He's no stranger. Absolutely no stranger to us Guyanese. And all of you, again, it's Tuesday night, is it? 28th of February. I must apologize. Last evening there was a rebroadcast, as you guys know. I have to do a lot of talking on the phones, counseling of individuals who are so afraid of being caught up in the immigration system. And you guys continue to be safe and ensure that if someone approaches you from the immigration place, it must be done in terms of the legal way, the proper way. And once it's done the proper way and you cooperate, if there's a need, just ensure that you show them your documents and safeguard yourselves and your family. God bless you all. I'll be back tomorrow, same place. I've noticed there have been some fighting in the audience there, back and forth. It happens. It's straight up. It happens. Good night to all of you. God bless you, and God continue to bless our country of birth and our adopted home, the United States of America. God bless you all. See you soon.
I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Imagine 18 hours of blackout, and you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%, yet you give public servant less. Mr. President, listen to the people. Search your soul and you will confess. I want you try surviving on the public pay.
Yeah, my name is Jacinty Caldata Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my ex next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.